Hello and welcome to the 4th episode of SoCal Spotlight. I'm María Felicia Kelley. We bring you the achievers, the high flyers, the movers and shakers in Southern California in entertainment, sports, wellness, and politics. And today, I'm excited to kick it all off with best-selling author Renée Carlino, author of 12 novels and now a co-screenwriter with actress turned director Julia Stiles. Together, they adapted one of Renée's books, Wish You Were Here, to film, which recently opened in theaters and is now on digital and is streaming. So welcome, Renée. So great to see you and meet you in person, face to face. We had the great opportunity to converse online in a published interview on the North County Moms and SoCal Spotlight. So this is a real treat.
Thank you.
Especially, you're very welcome, especially on the heels of the release of Wish You Were Here, the adaptation, screen adaptation that you co-wrote with Julia Stiles, based on a book that you actually wrote. So tell us about the lead up to this whole event.
Well, I started out in the film business. So when I started writing novels, I kind of always imagined them as films. Not that that was the goal necessarily, but I knew I would adapt some. And an actress in the film, actually, this starts way back when the book had first come out in 2017. She had reached out and said that she wanted to try and produce the film, and so she kind of got the ball rolling on it, and then Julia came on board, and then Molly, the producer, Molly Connors with Fifen, and then we adapted the book, and it's surreal. I mean, because it's the first novel that I've seen come to life, on the screen, and so the whole experience was surreal. Just seeing the actors, Kelsey Grammer, like people I grew up watching, Jennifer Grey, baby. From Dirty Dancing, and so and then the two younger actors that play the main characters were great, and they were excellent. They really, so it was amazing, cool.
And so all the media attention that you've been getting, and Julia Stiles has been getting, and the film itself, that must be really encouraging.
It's just mind blowing. I mean, and I didn't expect that, but it's her directorial debut. She always wanted to direct, and she's very gracious. She says that she was looking for the right story. So that means a lot to me that she was really waiting for that story to come along that she wanted to make into a film. And she's just a natural, and she did a great job.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Had anyone before her approaching you, had anyone else reached out and said, hey, this book would be great on film, let's do it?
Yeah, actually quite a few. They're not knocking down my door or anything, but no, we've had bites here and there. I've had bites here and there. I have a couple that are in development now, and as most people know, it's a really long process. For most filmmakers, it's a very long process. So,
how long did it take for you guys when you were actually working on it?
When we really started kind of shopping it out to studios and whatnot was. From that time until the time that it was released was probably three years, I guess, maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a long time.
It seems like a long time, yeah.
So how did it feel to share the creative process? Because especially that's your baby, right? That's your story.
Yeah.
And you have to share it with someone else. So did that feel how did that feel? Was it, were you reluctant?
I started in TV, I think coming from a background that is collaborative, I didn't really reject that. I wanted to see the vision that she had. I wanted to see how, because novels are very different than the way that you adapt them for the screen. There are a lot of things you can't do in a novel, or you can do in a novel and not on the screen. And she was great. She was really wanted to nail down the essence of the book that I wrote. So I didn't feel like we clashed on anything there. And yeah, it was just a joy. It was from beginning to end. And, even novel writing you have to kind of learn how to choose your battles pretty early on, because there's editorial process, and you're dealing with 3 other editors, and so they have something in mind, and there's
a collaboration.
There's a collaboration there too. Right. Yeah, it's not as as we used to think, like the writer in the countryside who sends off the manuscript and then it's published, there's a lot going on there. So I was used to that process.
Right. So then back to the film and the production of it. It filmed in New Jersey, correct? Yes. And were you able to be on set for some of that?
Yes,
and
I was.
Explore that whole process?
Yes, I was. It was amazing. It was, like I said, surreal. I mean, Kelsey Grammer plays the dad, and he was
Did you see that?
Oh, yes,
that
I did.
Okay.
And he was so gracious, too. He was like, thank you for writing the story. And he was just improvising the scene where he's rolling out the pizza dough and he's sort of singing. That was totally improv.
I heard Julia Stiles say that she discovered he had a great voice.
It was,
and
yeah.
so she wanted to make sure she got that on camera.
Right. And it was just such good comic relief in that moment. And so, I had been on sets many times. Like I said, I worked in the business right out of college, and then my husband has worked in it for 25 years. So been on many, many, many sets and seen that, but definitely just an outer body experience, hearing the words that I wrote, being performed in this room and to be seen on a big screen. So it was amazing. Yeah.
So then when you were collaborating, writing the script, did it take you back to your days? Because I know you have a degree in film. Yeah. So was that kind of like, you probably felt comfortable in that space.
Oh yeah, and it's really, I think the reason why maybe many authors do not adapt their own novels is and there is an actual screenwriting adaptation type of writer, is because they don't know a lot about how films are made. And I went to film school, so I have a background, and so it seemed really, for me, it was very easy to adapt it. I knew what I couldn't do and what was unrealistic for the budget that we were looking at, and able to make those choices and to pull out the broad strokes of the film to make sure that it made sense to audiences. And so
exactly. So like, what's your process to like give life to the character? Is there a certain, do you pattern them after people you know? Is it out of whole cloth?
It's everyone. It's always, they're amalgamations. I mean, it's every...
So people in your life need to be like wearing, oh, is this going to be on in a book or on screen?
Yeah, exactly. I might put you in a book and you may not like what that character does.
Right.
They're all really just, like I said, amalgamations of experiences that I've had, people I've met, places I've been, my own emotions, how I perceive others' emotions, my relationships, family, husband, children, and so it's hard to. There have been moments where I will have mostly it's secondary characters or characters that have very small roles in a novel that I will literally kind of base after someone I know. Oh, okay. Just as a way to remember. That's because, as something that I can have a visual in my mind for later on in the book. And a lot of times I forget, I'll forget the names of the early characters. I have to go back and read what I wrote.
What did I name that person?
Yeah. But funny. I haven't based anybody. I used a lot of my sister's 20s for Charlotte in Wish You Were Here. A lot of her sort of failed dating experiences, which were hilarious, but not for her. But they didn't.
How did she feel rereading
She was
them?
laughing. She thought it was hilarious.
Okay.
But it really didn't make it into the film. Again, that was like something that didn't necessarily come across. It didn't work for the time we had, and so.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, I've read 2 of your novels. Would you say that most of your novels revolve around the female experience and women and what we go through, or? Yeah,
the novel that came out in July, my most recent novel, This Used to Be Us, is actually dual.
I loved
that.
You
did.
Oh my God!
Thank you so much.
I've never cried reading a book. Oh my God! It was such a I can't give it away, but it was really just lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Well
I try to make people cry.
Yeah, you do. You told me that before. You're right.
For This Used to Be Us, that was told in alternating points of view, so we got to see Danielle and Alex's experience. So for that, I owe it from the very beginning. I said that the main character was a marriage, and really we were getting how the 2 characters perceived the marriage and the divorce, and how they were navigating the complexities of that. But yes, I started out writing sort of when I started writing novels. I was around this age. It was like the new adult sort of after college. What are you going to do with your life? What do you want to do for a living? Will you get married? Will you have kids? Will you, travel the world? What will you do? And so I wrote several novels around that. Most of them had sort of an underlying theme of second chances, or having more than one soulmate, or having, these experiences that change the characters, as opposed to just sort of what contemporary romances is viewed by maybe people who don't read contemporary romance as, you know. So that's usually a journey. Yeah. And I always say that whenever I read a review where someone's like, I can't believe that so-and-so did that in the beginning of the book. And I go, well, they have to have an arc. Like, we have to see them, change by the end. Yeah. So if it was perfect from the beginning, there wouldn't be a book.
I know,
it would be 3 pages long.
It's like, shoot, why did this have to end like this or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
But with This Used to Be Us, I think I relate to it because it's, a mom and children and that whole scene and that whole process. There were so many familiar, just for my own, everybody's different, but for my own life and lifestyle, you could kind of just put yourself in her place and just be a part of it.
I wanted to show that realistic. Well done. One of the things that I sort of centered that novel around was just the phrase that she says, where she says, for so long we were staying together for the kids, and now we need to divorce for the kids, because it was just so toxic, and just the arguments and whatever, and they weren't connecting. So it's no surprise that they're divorced in the first act of the novel. But so for that, I think in marriage there's a lot of nuance. So pitching stories like that is actually really hard. I kind of want to convince the other person that, I know it sounds like just a story about 2 married people, right? Or 2 people getting a divorce, but really it's not. It's about the little nuance elements there. And they get a bird nesting apartment, they call it a nesting apartments, where they keep the kids in the family home and then go back and forth from the apartment. So they're not there at the same time. And one thing that inspired part of that was that Anthony, my husband, was working in LA, and he was working on a really intense job. And we got him an apartment, and I was helping him kind of decorate the apartment a little bit. Yeah. But he had already bought a few things. We've been together for 25 years at this point. He had already bought a few things, and I was there alone, kind of putting other stuff in and looking at the items that he bought. Like, he would use this dish soap if we weren't together, but it's so long. We were doing the same thing. We were like the same person.
Didn't I teach him anything?
And so these 2 characters get to experience that, the other person and what they're sort of doing, and what they would do, and who they are when you can see them from the other side of the street again. Which is being together for so long. You're so
So you were able to pluck out like a scene within your book based on your own experience, something totally different, but relatable.
Oh, for sure. And I would say that book was easier to write than some of the other books. I was starting to age out of the genre that I was writing, so it was getting more and more difficult too.
I would think it would be more difficult. That's funny. Yeah. Well, do you think you'll do another project with Julia Stiles, or is that?
I mean, it's always up. It was a great experience. Everyone got along so well. I mean, however things come together, I would love to. And I know that she's busy right now, but the collaboration was great.
What was the best part of working with her, you think?
She's very down to earth and very practical, and very gracious. And she showed a lot of gratitude for allowing me to have her story, so to speak, or allowing her to have my story. But she's great at it, and I hope she continues and can build on that.
She's so talented.
Yeah, she's very talented.
She seems like she really got into the role of director.
Yeah,
and it really worked for her. And
it was natural.
She discovered something.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just total second nature for her.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I know you're a boy mom like I am, and you're serious about being a parent and being a wife and managing your home. So I'm always curious how moms and successful, entrepreneurs or business people or creatives are able to really manage and juggle the lives, basically two lives. Like, does one dictate, how do you not say, family life doesn't come first? But, I mean, which dictates the schedule more?
Yeah.
Your creative stuff or your mom stuff and I know your boys are teenagers, so it changes.
But they still suck the life out of me, So, no, but I would say that. So when I stopped working like in film and I chose to stay at home with the boys. I started writing novels, during their nap times or whatever.
Oh, cool.
And so, that awarded me the opportunity to do that, to have that, was to be home and to write, which is really a blessing. I find now that I write people think this is the craziest thing, but I usually get up about 3 a.m. and I write from like 3. You do the same thing. Okay, so it is a common thing. It is really quiet. It's kind of eerie. Brain's really creative still. Access to language still. By the end of the day, juggling, being a mom everywhere, driving everywhere, my brain's fried. I can't write after that. So,
no, and I find that early morning, that first blush, things come to you that you hadn't thought of. I'm like, oh wait, where was that? Why didn't I think about that sooner? Yeah. And it's just that, especially that first hour for me, for whatever reason. Yeah. I try to keep it quiet that I wake up that early, because people like my mother will be like, oh, you're up? No, this is my time.
Yeah, exactly.
But the house is quiet. Mm-hmm. You can find your own space and do your own thing. Speaking of houses being quiet, I know your husband works in the industry. Yeah. So how does that, tell us about what he does, first of all. And I know he's won awards for what he does, so please share.
He's a set decorator. He's been working in the business over 20 years. So a lot of people don't know exactly how that works. It's an art department. There's a set deck department where he has a crew of people who help him shop out what is going to be in the sets.
Cool.
Kind of based on the characters' personalities and whatnot, and just whatever.
It's an excuse to shop.
Yes, he shops a lot. That's what he does, and he has been doing it for so long that he knows where to find the most unique things.
Do you get to help?
I did actually help in San Diego. I went to some places to help him pick out a couple of pieces, and then I always brag about it when people can see it in the films. I picked that vase out.
So cool.
It's like no big deal, but I'm like, I did that.
That's really cool.
Yeah, he was nominated for an Oscar for Babylon 2 years ago. I guess that would have been 2 years ago. So we got to do that. He won the BAFTA for it. He's worked on, I think, 13 Marvel movies. Jeez. He's had a very successful career. And yeah, another reason why I chose to stay at home, because the film industry, we were ships passing in the night. We really didn't see each other, much, because right before I quit, I was working in post-production, and I had really weird hours, and so I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna stay home to raise the kids, and then I just started writing novels, and that's where I ended up. Cool. I was also very lucky, though.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So with both you and your husband, there's a lot of creative energy going through the household. Does that help stimulate, the process for both of you?
No, no. I mean, we definitely tell each other about. We have the really different, where I'll try to plot with like give me some ideas on how I'm going to end this story, what I'm going to do with this character, and he's like, you're the writer. I don't know what to say. But if you ask him what should go in a room for a certain character, I don't know where to get it within 5 minutes, and so yeah, we do talk about things like that, and he knows a lot about architecture, a lot about the different eras. Babylon was, I think, 1923, and it was 150 sets. Jeez. It was a lot of antiques. Wow. He actually had to have some shipped from Belgium, and they were running out of antiques in LA, really, just for this movie, basically. Really? Yeah. And you can't have the same lamp in two people's sets or houses. So, but yeah, that was an experience. It was a really hard movie, and he deserved the accolades that he got for that, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, kudos to him. That's awesome. So how do your sons feel about, your husband too, but you being the success that you've become? Do they?
We are just mom and dad.
Of course you
But
are.
I did, when we went to the Oscars, because the boys got to go, they had to sit up in the mezzanine, but I did say, this isn't normal, right? Like, this might not ever happen again. I mean, and so they get it, but they just see us as mom and dad.
Yeah.
I give them all the warnings, like, your dad and I got very lucky we worked very, very hard. That's one thing we have in common is that we're very hard workers. But it has to be the perfect combination of kismet and and hard work and being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
Having a network of people that that was one thing I did right away with novel writing was try to find other authors writing similar stories to be able to navigate that industry. Yeah.
So do your sons have any interest in film industry? Or?
Yeah, my younger son he's a really good writer and very creative. It's funny though, I always tell this joke, and this used to be us, I think it was in the acknowledgements where I say, you guys can be anything you want, but you also have to be Dennis.
I did read that.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh?
Because I don't want to squash any dreams or anything, but it's just so I have had a backup. I also teach English, and so I do. I teach 7th grade English, and so
not now.
Yeah, I do. I teach part-time online. I do.
Cool is that?
It's really fun. The kids are really getting into novel reading, so it's really cool.
That's cool.
But so I tell the boys that it's something that takes a lot of fortitude, I guess, for lack of a better word, but a lot of no's, a lot more no's than yeses,
right?
For a really long time, and so
right. So I know they're teenagers, but have they read any of your work, or maybe age-appropriate stuff, or are they just like, no?
Yes, they have, and I think it's sort of surreal for them because they're like, you wrote this? Like, thanks, guys.
Are they proud of it?
You wrote this?
Oh, good, because I was going to say, they should be proud of you.
And I have a different conversational language, obviously, with them, and so they're just like, okay. But yeah, no, they like the stories. They're really my earlier books are really more kind of geared toward the female audience, right? And but they've read some, and yeah, I don't want to force them to read them, so I'm just trying to get them to read all the other.
What about your husband? Does he?
Oh yeah, he reads them. Okay. Yeah, he definitely writes. That would be a problem if he didn't read them.
Do you feel like apprehensive, like, oh my God, do I really want him to read it, or?
He's usually pretty positive about them, I think, because really early on I said, don't criticize unless you can give me a suggestion. Like, don't just tell me something's bad without giving me the alternative. Like, and really that is what collaborating with editors is like, is that all editors that I've worked with are giving you the, not just this isn't working for me, but this isn't working for me, but here's why, or maybe this will work, so my husband reads them all, and he's been a great support for
That's
this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
Yeah.
So you guys live in San Diego.
Yes.
But obviously there's so much happening up in LA. Curious about, I love LA too, but and there's so much happening now, so it's, obviously the conversation's a lot different.
Right.
But in general, what's that dynamic like, and what's the reasoning for just settling here and making
in San
this home?
Diego?
Yeah.
Well, we grew up in San Diego. So both of us, we were living in LA at the time, or we were living in LA most of, our relationship until we moved back here 10 years ago, or 12 years ago. But at that time, films were going out of town. This was the very kind of beginning where the other states were giving big tax incentives. Oh. So like Georgia had, 25% back. If you made your film there, you're getting 25% back.
Wow.
So some of those big, movies that are $100 million budgets, it made perfect sense for them to send the whole crew out there and make the movie there. Yeah. And so Anthony was going out of town a lot. I had my kids were little toddlers. I felt really isolated up in LA, just, a different world coming from being very kind of social and being in this little artist community and then going and being a mom.
Right.
And
I can imagine.
And said, I don't know that I can take this any longer. And he goes, well, let's move to Carlsbad. It's just, and at the time, I think he was working in Manhattan Beach. So we were living up in Thousand Oaks, so the distance was the same.
Right.
It didn't matter. It was
Right.
a commute either way.
Right.
And that had happened the whole time we were living in LA. It was like when we would move to one place, he would get a job at a studio on the other side of town. So he was always commuting. So we're like, let's just go back to San Diego and see if we can do it there. He was still going out of town a lot anyway. And then, we had our parents down here and a lot of help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Built-in
babysitters.
help.
Yeah,
built-in
for sure.
babysitters. So because you're, a best-selling author, does that add pressure on you to create, or does it elevate you knowing that, hey, I'm a best-selling author, I've got something to say here? Or how do you approach writing with that knowledge?
Not so much the best-selling part. It's more, I used to think that I wrote more freely without being on a deadline. Mm-hmm. Like This Used to Be Us, I wrote the entire manuscript before my agent sold it. So I had written the whole thing. That was a lot less pressure in the editorial side of things because they knew what they were buying. They had the manuscript there already. And most of my, with the exception of my first book, were sold on 3 chapters and a synopsis or something like that. So, but then this time, I just feel like I really needed for the book that I'm writing now, and I won't tell you too much about it. It's not really that well organized at this moment. But I was really kind of pushing for a deadline before it was finished so that I could, stay focused on that. I used to think that the deadlines were pressure, but they're really just more of structure and sort of discipline that I need sometimes. It's really easy to decide that you want to make a cheesecake instead of, it's just anything. It can be anything. I always talk about how writer's block, when people ask me about writer's block, I'm like, it is more like your brain tricks you into thinking you need to make a key lime cheesecake from scratch, like that day, and somehow that's really pressing. And so then you're pulled away from the story again, and you really do have to get back. It's just like exercise, just like going to the gym or going to yoga. You got to get back into the routine of going and writing every single day, even if you're not producing the best words, or it's the habit of it. And then you begin to have those kind of dopamine rushes like you do when you're exercising, and it makes that process enjoyable.
Right.
And so
that's amazing. So to get back to Wish You Were Here, the book, how did you come up with the characters? Were you inspired to write about Charlotte and Adam?
It's come a long way from from inception, because I'm thinking about how I started that. I was really obsessed with, at the time, so the film was shot in New Jersey, and it's sort of this nondescript town. And we didn't put a name to it, but the book is in LA, and it was at the time where I had a friend that was working in the, city department, some job where he was trying to protect murals that were being covered up down in the arts district of LA. And I became really obsessed with that just as a hobby, to look at them and see what there was. And then Banksy was just kind of coming on the scene. Do you know Banksy, this kind of the secret muralist that puts up that no one knows who he is or she? I think they still don't, but I got this idea in my mind that who is that person, and I want to write about them and what's their story. And so that's how Adam's character came first.
Do you want to help me paint something? What? But we have to be quick. I've never felt so connected to anyone before.
And then Charlotte was sort of just that kind of, not fickle, but just can't make a decision about her life, has a lot of different degrees, a lot of different certificates.
Which is not unusual.
No, it's not. And I kind of encourage it.
They're not kids. But people are in their 20s.
Yeah. I encourage it with my kids. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to figure it out that way.
Of course not.
As long as you're making forward progress in something, then.
I'm Adam.
Charlotte. We met at a museum. We laughed so hard, we almost got kicked out. And then you asked me out, and I said yes.
So when, in the book, Charlotte and Adam had this dream of Paris. So I'm curious, on the writer's side, when you work with a publisher and you have like these destinations that are part of the novel, are you able to go travel there on their dime? Or
No.
That would be nice.
I think I can write it off though. But no, not really. No, and I think about writers back in the days pre-internet and pre-computer, even like on a typewriter, clunky typewriter, and I'm like, wow, how did they do it? So no, but I have access to, sort of, most of the places that I've written about, actually probably all, I have been to. So at some point in my life.
That's cool.
So yeah, no, that's not
That would be
that
nice.
would be amazing though. I need to figure out how to get that going.
That would be awesome.
I just remembered the Wish You Were Here. Actually, my husband in film school had made a short film, and it's actually like, it's kind of like a story that's floated around this idea of the story, which is these two men in this hospital room, and one is looking out the window, and the other is they're both terminally ill, and the one kind of wakes up every morning. He says, "What do you see today?" And the other one says, "Oh, Johnny's out there fishing. Oh, he caught a fish." He's telling all these stories about the things that he's seeing, and then this man is having some breathing difficulties, the man by the window, and this man doesn't help or call the nurse because he wants to be by the window.
Oh, jeez.
And it's terrible. And then when he gets to the window, it's terrible.
Wow.
But when he gets to the window, there's nothing there. It's just a wall. So then he was making it up for the other to give him something to think about and be hopeful about. So when Charlotte meets Adam, they're kind of role playing in the beginning, but as we find out what Adam is going through, then they start kind of both creating this life that he won't get a chance to live through these stories. Like, what are our kids like?
Right.
Oh, they're, how our kids like, this kind of
beautiful.
thing. Yeah, so
that was really well done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I love that.
It really doesn't matter what happens next. You are my perfect right now.
So do your stories, your books, your novels, do they have like a common thread throughout them, would you say? Or
At one
they
point,
all
my editor called me the second chance romance queen. And I was like, I don't know if I want that title, but somehow I just always want to bring, I want the characters to fall apart and come back together,
Right.
So, or have some distance or a miscommunication or something happens to where they, alongside all of the normal life, experiences. So yeah, I would say that that's a theme, and This Used to Be Us, it was definitely love your people well,
Right.
So, and
second chances, I
second
think you
chances,
said, yeah. That's interesting. How long does it take you to write a typical novel?
My first novel, Sweet Thing.
Or your typical novel?
Yeah, I wrote it in 6 weeks.
What?
Yes. I've been a writer kind of always, but.
What's a daily schedule look like?
It was basically 4 a.m. and I started, I think when I got to I never imagined that I would be able to write like long prose. Like I just always thought I would write scripts or poetry or short stories. And so when I started writing, and like I said, I was home with the kids. My boys were really little; they were babies, and they would take naps at the same time. And I would go in. I miss those days. I know, right? But that was how it started, and I got really excited. And I tell everyone who is an aspiring writer who hasn't really been able to get words on paper is that if you don't love that 3 hours of sort of just typing away and going in the story. I mean, I experience all the things that readers experience. I cry, I laugh, I think I'm so funny. But no, it's really just, I'm trying to get in there and it's 3-dimensional for me. And so I always say, if you don't kind of get that high from the process of writing, then maybe this might not be it. Yeah.
Right.
Because you have to write a novel with the expectation or the knowledge that potentially no one will ever read it, and maybe no one will like it. You know? So if you can do that and you still want to get in there and type, 5,000 words a day, then you're golden. You'll do it. You'll get there. So yeah.
That's amazing. So your first book deal was a 3-book deal,
Yes.
Can you tell us, did you send out lots of query letters? Did you have a connection? Did you send one and get lucky? Or what was the process?
I got really lucky. This was at a time when self-publishing wasn't as sort of flooded, as prevalent as it was. I started out when I finished my first manuscript, Sweet Thing. I took it, I workshopped it in LA with other writers. I tried to polish it. I hired a developmental editor to work with me to polish it and to sort of flesh some things out and to elevate it. And then I think I queried 2 agents, and the process just at that time was so just daunting. It felt impossible.
Yeah.
And so this new thing called self-publishing was happening. And I said, well, maybe I'll give this a shot, but I really wanted to do it well. So another author, and this is where it's important to get out into your community if you're a writer. Another author said, you have to give a lot of copies of your book away, before the release date, the official release date. You have to give a lot of copies away to people.
Like the gallery, what they call it,
galleys, or to bloggers or to whoever to get it out there. And I was like how many? Like 10? And she's like, no, like 200. And I was like,
I wish.
Oh, I'm not going to make money off those 200. And she's like, no, you have to do that if you want the book to be seen, to be read, to be reviewed. And people were already on Amazon at that time in 2012, buying books, and they would look at the reviews. The reviews were really important, so you wanted to get those early reviews, and Goodreads. And so I did that, and I just, like I've told you before, I was just really lucky because I don't think this happens often. But my first book that I self-published hit the USA Today the second week it was out, and so
But how did that happen?
People bought it. It was amazing.
Because of the
I did.
free
I spent a little bit of money on marketing. I think I paid for some ads here and there. And
this was before social media, where you could utilize.
Well, there was some social media. I had to get on. I didn't even know about Instagram. I had like a Facebook profile or something, but not much else. You really do have to market yourself in this business now. So, but I took the advice of others and just getting the book out there, giving it to anybody who'd be willing to read it, to write a review about it. And a blogger that had a really big, million followers or something, was like, it was like her top book of the year. So, and so once she said that, it was just flying, and it was going. And then of course, a week after that, I got agents and publishers and calling me and saying, we want you to take it off the self-published shelf right now so that we can repackage it and put it out as a published. And so, I got the 3-book deal with that. Yeah.
That is, and then from there, it's just with those were a success, and
one deal after another, and worked with the same editor for a long time. I was with Simon & Schuster, Atria, the imprint, and then my last book was with Random House with Dial Press, which is a very female, sort of driven imprint.
Interesting.
And publishing house that I'm really proud of.
You would think the previous publisher would want to retain you. It's like, don't let her go.
Really, I think this is probably a part that maybe a lot of people that are not in the publishing world realize that it's really your editor who's kind of going to bat for you with the publisher. So, and that editor works for the publisher, but they find something and they say, I want you to publish this. And my editor moved to another company. And she actually got she's the VP at I can't think of the name of it right now, but an imprint that did not publish the types of books that I was writing. So we were really sad. Some of these, wish you were here, was like our baby together, So we were really sad that we parted ways in that creative way. And then I just didn't find another fit there. So I just took it out on submission to other, my agent did, and then,
Interesting. So this used to be us. You mentioned in our previous online interview, it's about second chances.
Yeah.
Do your books give you an opportunity to explore, second chances for yourself, just creatively, like maybe a road you didn't take, and you get to live
vicariously.
Live through that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's kind of like what I was saying. There's this quote, I think it's a Hemingway quote, or no, it's Robert Frost. Is it Robert Frost? I might be getting this wrong, but I know the quote. It's no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader, no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. And it's so if you're not in there in that story, you know, then your readers probably won't be either. So you got to be in there, committed. And so yeah, that's a big part of it.
And your readers are obviously there for you. Speaking of which, do you have like a huge fan base? Do people come to you, or do they read story after story after story?
Yes,
and like
I have a
begging
pretty
for the
solid.
next one?
Yeah, I have a pretty solid readership, which they keep me writing because they keep reading the books. It's not huge, but it is enough to where I just feel like it's, you know, there's a reader out there for the books I'm writing. So yeah. I'm very
That's
lucky.
so cool. And when you do book tours, do you go across the country? Do you focus on Southern California?
I used to do a lot of book events. I don't really anymore. This used to be Yes, it came out in July. I did one in New York at the Strand, and Julia Stiles actually, she was, you know, the interviewer, moderator. Yes, moderator. And so that was great fun for her because she was on the other side of things for once, you know, and so
cool.
She read the book and she gave me a really beautiful blurb for it. And so she had read This Used to Be Us. And so it was great, to have her there. And the Strand is like this very well-known, you know, the Strand, okay. So it was exciting to have a book released there. But yeah, I am a homebody. You know, and so
I think writers almost have to be homebodies.
I think so, yeah. If you like to sit in a room by yourself all day writing stories about things that don't exist, then. But yeah, so it feels like a little counterintuitive for me, or like just to be out there. But I do love talking about the books and like giving gratitude to the people who are buying them and reading them.
I bet.
Yeah.
Because without them.
Yeah. Right.
So you hinted at something you might be working on now. What are you able to share with us about?
Swear in This Life is in development right now for a possible TV show, which is really exciting. Yeah, and that was the book I wrote right before Wish You Were Here. So,
no kidding.
Yeah, and then I have another one that's being shopped around for film.
How exciting! You've got all of these tentacles.
It's very exciting.
Working for you. That's cool.
The realistic side of me, though, will say those things knowing, though, that, you know, a lot of these things never pan out to be anything, but still,
they're working.
Yeah, I have to go into it with a reasonable and not get too excited about those things, you know.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, it's very hard to get a film made in Hollywood. It's hard for anyone. It's hard for Steven Spielberg to get a film made.
What?
It took him years to get Lincoln made. I mean, really.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just thought that was so interesting because, you know, for that type of film and to make that type of film, you know, you needed the backing and people didn't want to make it. And so it took him a long time. And so if he's having a hard time making a movie, you know.
But you're doing it, and you have to be in the game to participate and see what happens. So that's awesome. So following up here with Women's History Month coming up next month, would you say, I'm curious because I want to explore something probably online about women and valor and courage and just strength. Do you have any particular books that come to mind that kind of focus in on a character that really exemplifies female strength and just in a contemporary, obviously your books are contemporary accounts.
I mean, I think that people will be surprised. I can't think of any titles off the top of my head, but so many do. And I think people will be really surprised that you can find that in romance, where the women have a lot of agency and are very much in charge of their life and choosing what path they want to go down. And ultimately, many of those stories are about choice. And so for me, I think that I really wish that there wasn't such a stigma with romance, because it really covers so many types, you know, and there's so many stories there about self-discovery and about and about overcoming, you know, maybe diversity, and I really do love that it also shines a light on femininity and being a woman and not sort of trying to shut that down. I love romance. I love the idea of romance. Yeah. And I just really want to see movies come back to the theater that are about real life people and relationships.
Right.
And I would love to see that be a popular thing again. It just,
wow.
it's
Well,
all...
you have a great collection to choose from to make that a
thank
possibility.
you.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you coming to share,
Yes.
with the new movie that's out, Wish You Were Here, co-wrote the screenplay with Julia Stiles. We are so excited that you decided to sit with us here at SoCal Spotlight.
Much. Yeah,
so really
I had a great time. Thank you. I really loved doing the interview with you online too. That was awesome. But yeah, I love this town. I love Southern California, and so yeah, anytime.
Yeah. And we want to hear what comes next with those 3.
For sure. Yeah, I will keep you posted.
Potentials.
Yeah.
in
Fingers
the
crossed.
ether. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Renée.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. In the meantime, be sure to stream Wish You Were Here on your favorite streaming app. And I highly suggest you take some time to read Renée's latest novel, This Used to Be Us, and the novel that caught Julia Stiles' interest, Wish You Were Here. With 2 books read, I'll be reaching for my 3rd. Join me and let's get a discussion going on Instagram at SoCal Spotlight. See you on the next episode of SoCal Spotlight.